So let's try these two questions. You have the standard normal distribution, and what's the probability that z would be greater or equal to 2.31? And the question also asks you to sketch the picture. So here's the normal distribution, and 2.31 is be somewhere here. And you don't have to be exact. It's this much. However, remember that in the table, you only get the area from negative infinity up to that point. So if you go to the table, where here it says 2.3 and 0.00 and 0.01, if you add 2.3 with 0.01, you get 2.31, right? And look what number is right there. You get 2.31, you get 0.98956. Okay, 2.31, 2.986. Okay. But remember that this is actually, this is area from negative infinity until here. And you should also know that indeed it makes sense because 2.2 standard deviation is actually quite far to the right. Okay, if something is above 2 standard deviations or below 2 standard deviations, those values are not not some usual values you would expect. Okay, it would be somewhat extraordinary kind of values, right? So those happen for a very small probability, and this should be very close to 1, don't you think? Because you're shading most of the graph, right? So when you see this value 0.98956, you should expect that to be close to 1, and you should think that this number is reasonable. I'm telling you this because a lot of people forgot to subtract from 1 because even after the correct graph. When you see this graph, which is a very small portion, you should expect some number that's very small. Okay? So for this one, if you claim that the area is 0.98956, that'll be strange, right? So that kind of thinking will help you to avoid errors, right? So how do you convert this area to this area? Well, you realize that that area on the right side is this other one. Therefore, you can say that this much is 1 minus p of z less than 2.31. And since that value is given here as 0.98956, the answer will be 0.01044. So that's how you get that. Now let's look at the second one. If you have a question asking for the area between two values, here's 2.31 and negative 1.44, then since you're asking for this, you can easily think of this as difference between this much minus this much right here. Okay. So if you can find the area of this and find the area of this and subtract them, that's what you'll get as the answer, right? However, in the table, I don't have any values for the negative, and therefore, you have to do some tricks to figure out what this value is. So how would you find this negative 1.44? Well, first go to, here's 1.4, and if you go 0.0, 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, 0.04, since 1.4 plus 0.04 is 1.44, you read this number right here where they meet, and if you read it, let's see, 0.92507. So this will be 0.92507. Okay. Now, if you're given this value, how would you get this area right here? Any ideas?
1 minus.
1 minus, right? That's because if this is 1.44, and this given area is this much, which makes sense. It's like it's very close to 1, right? But then, if you look at this one, that's very small value. You see the difference? When you see this, you should think of a very small value, whereas if you see this, you should think of some value that's close to 1. It's much bigger, okay, 92% versus some very small value. Now, once you have that idea, then you can see that what we want, because this is a negative and this is positive, is exactly same as this one because of symmetry. Okay, so if you know that symmetry, then you can calculate this area by saying that that's same as this area, but what is this area? This area is 1 minus this value, right, which is 0.07493. And that's how you continue the calculation. Okay? So I know that this now is 0.07493. 493. Now we just have to figure out this one, and you subtract. That will be the shaded area that we want. And this is 0.98956 from the previous question, and you subtract the 2. Okay. So let me copy it here. 0.98956 minus 0.07493. Subtract, that's 3. That's 6. What is that? That's 4. And then 1, 9. Okay. So the answer is 0.91463. That's how you get the answer. Does anyone have the practice exam printed? I should have printed mine.
Yeah.
You have it?